All right, thank you for joining us, everyone. If everyone could just take a seat, please. I would now like to introduce Robin to talk about working together to protect biodiversity and waterways.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Robin. I'm the Landcare Coordinator for Hovells Creek Landcare Group, and I'm going to talk to you about an erosion control project that our group has been doing over the last few years. So this is a story about three things, essentially. The first one is that if you have a group of people and you're working together at the farm level, do I need to talk into that a bit more? Sorry. If you've got a group of people and you're working together across a landscape at the farm level, you can make a really big difference at the regional level. The second thing it's about is if you collaborate with a bunch of experts, then it will make your project design and your project outcomes so much better. And for the most part, these people are free, they're government, they're really knowledgeable, and they're fantastic to work with. And the third thing it's about is how something that might look really big and daunting is actually really quite manageable if you've got the funding and you've got a few project management skills. Can be done. It's also only half the story. I'm going to touch on that a little bit later with some mild dental references. So, this is the Hovells Creek Valley. We're about 2.5 hours north of Canberra. We're an hour south of Cowra, which is up the top corner there somewhere. Oh God, this isn't working. There it is. And we've got Wyangla Dam up here in the top. Hovells Creek flows into the Lachlan River, and the Lachlan River comes out of Wyangla Dam and then heads west. So everything we do has big impact on the Lachlan River and other waterways. We have highly erosive granite soils, and we have hundreds of erosion gullies. Many of them date back as far as the 1800s, and they were caused from a combination of rabbits, drought, and overstocking with too many hard-hoofed animals that really didn't belong in an environment that was unsuited to them. And more recently, we've got some gullies that have formed overnight in a single storm event. That's, 1.7 kilometres long, and bang, there it was one night. Our main aim for the project was to stop thousands of tonnes of sediment leaving farms from these active erosion gullies and ending up in waterways such as the Lachlan. And the way we did that was we've been doing earthworks to take the speed out of the water on farm and then stabilise them with seeding, planting and fencing to keep the stock off them. The sediment forms a slug in the river. It makes it more clogged, more saline, more turbid and less oxygenated. And this all has major impacts on the aquatic and riparian flora and fauna. Ooh, sorry. This is where Hovells Creek flows into the Lachlan River. So Hovells Creek comes in on the right, and this really should be a beautiful, deep river there, but it's not. And this is several kilometres upstream from the Cowra Bridge, and you can see there's still great big chunks of sand slug in there. As part of the project, we've had a professional 10-minute video made by Enviromedia, and it really nicely captures our work across the landscape, and it captures our collaboration with experts and landholders. So what I'm going to do is play that now. It's about 10 minutes, and then follow it up with a series of before and after pictures of the works with costs so you can get a better understanding of doing it. Oh no, that's not right. Do I go backwards that way? Sorry. They said double click. Right, that's the video done. Can I get some help? Do I just press the back one again? Well, damn. Okay, so now maybe just one press onto the video. One more. Okay.
Here on the banks of the Lachlan River, which is a place we fell in love with 20 years ago, but what came with it was a very degraded landscape. It goes back 200 years of intense farming and grazing. The gullies were massive. All the banks were constantly eroding, and sand was just gushing every rainfall into the river. And what the greatest shock to me was there was no birdsong. It was silent. With our Landcare group, connecting with neighbours, connecting as a community, as a group, we've formed a powerful voice.
It's a group that forms on the basis of social connection and has the Landcare in common. So we've had a series of projects and funds from a number of different funding partners to build this erosion control program. There's a lot of units involved in terms of sites and in terms of stakeholders and partners, and we couldn't have done it without our local Landcare coordinator.
Hovells Creek is a narrowish sort of a valley. It's got good flats down on the creek. The sides rise fairly steeply. Hovells Creek flows directly into the Lachlan River. 2016, the Department of Primary Industries did a report on the environmental health of the Lachlan River. They found that there was a 170 kilometre long sand slug that went all the way from pretty much from Wyangla Dam downstream to Cottons Weir at Forbes. One of the things they found was that the worst two reaches were coming out of Hovells Creek and the Burrawa River, so that's us. The really terrible thing about this sand slug was that it's filled in all the breeding holes. So there's Murray cod, there's a bunch of threatened species, plants and animals, riparian and aquatic, along that river. The way we saw it was that if we, as a group of farmers, were responsible for some of that sediment, what we could do is act as a group, and that's what we're trying to do. The project is about a few things, but at the heart of it, it's about people working together at the local level to try and reduce environmental impacts at the regional level. There's huge benefits for farmers in this erosion project. We've got 106 farmers in our group. It's a very active group. So the area is probably about 60,000 hectares. We started in 2019. We've managed so far to do 26 different sites on 13 different properties. We've had a huge number of collaborators. We started out with 5 government departments. These people have been advising us all the way through. We've also partnered with the New South Wales Soil Conservation Service, and SoilCon has designed every site to be appropriate to the site. We have a lot of water retention basins, otherwise known as dams. A lot of these gullies have actively eroding heads at the top. If you put the dam water across the head, that stops it from eroding further. Then in the back of the dam wall, you put a trickle pipe. So what happens is the energy gets taken out of the water, it sits in the dam, and then it trickles slowly down the gully.
So we had quite a bit of sediment and sand moving down off the high ridge, high slopes, into the lower slopes, and then actually into Hovells Creek. To be involved with this erosion work with the Landcare group was fantastic.
Our landscape is quite steep. With the historic land clearing and rainfall events and the topography, the erosion was starting to get a lot worse and impact on the functionality of the farm. As landholders, we sort of felt an obligation to manage our impact on that. We've had 2 dams put in, which were put in at the gully, which then feeds into Yambarri Creek. And then we've fenced off Yambarri Creek about 26 hectares and done some revegetation there as well. We had to slow the water flow through the gullies entering into the creek. So the dams have slowed the water, caught some sediment, and then below that it allows the revegetation to sort of take off. And we also had an aim of increasing our box gum grassy woodlands.
On another site, we've done a rockline channel. That was where there's a culvert on the roadway, and we've got 2 sites with culverts coming off the roadway with hills, and essentially this has been an issue for decades. The water comes down the flat surface of the road, it comes to the culvert, and it all just flushes through the culvert and onto the properties. In one case, it's formed an enormous, long, deep gully, and it's awful.
It took this erosion control project to put in strategic dams that finally worked, finally stopped the erosion happening at all. Once we fenced them out, so many native trees and shrubs came up of their own accord.
We had a particular problem of a road culvert which was channeling water from the catchment above it and causing erosion across the floodplain. Through this project, we were able to work with the Hilltops Council, and we've developed a new floodway, a rockline floodway, into a calming dam to still the water and then let it trickle across the floodplain. It's been tremendously successful. We've had several peak water flows down that since it was done, and none of the rocks have moved.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the outcome. I think it's taken so much sediment out of that system and out of the creeks. I think it's very important because it benefits everyone. Benefits the environment, benefits the water course, you know, the fish, the aquatic animals, benefits the towns, because quite a few towns are still pumping the water.
We also worked with Canberra Uni, with the hydrology school. They monitored some of our dams to find out exactly how much sediment we've been capturing.
How do we really actually prove we've made changes? So the relationship with Canberra University is critical there, because it tells us this structure is new and it's accumulating sediment, because over time we can show that. That's important. And it's very difficult otherwise to prove that whatever we're doing is working.
I would really like to see the partnership continue. There's a whole lot of other things associated with this collaboration that I think brings really positive understanding and benefits to a younger generation.
We've also collaborated with Agronomy. We've contracted them to do 3D high-res LiDAR mapping of our district. So we can look as a committee at that and go, okay, here is where the worst bits are.
What we're able to do is purely give them, a digital form of the landscape to enable them to very clearly see and communicate their challenges and get on with the task of making change.
Got your attention. We want more digital landscape planning. We have our area, about 52,000 hectares have been LiDAR mapped. That has a benefit to see if we can be more cost effective and more targeted about where we undertake our control structures.
We've also collaborated with the Balloon Institute, who are on this site putting in some leaky weirs.
By putting in nature-based solutions as we have with the rock weirs, we're able to reinstate some of those natural processes and basically speed up the process of regeneration. Eventually, as the bed structure of that creek lifts, we'll potentially see water spilling out onto the floodplain and connecting in with the function of that floodplain. By creating a more hydrated environment, we're building resilience within those landscapes.
We've lost some of the hydrological function of the area, so I'm very keen to stabilise the gully and to stop some of the large flows that come down now, causing further erosion, and also hopefully to start hydrating the landscape again, which is important. We're now looking at global warming in terms of, increased droughts, increased floods, but we've also got to think about the other side of the equation, which is how we're managing the land and how that impacts the climate. The two things, interrelate, and we're not really recognising that.
The collaboration here in Hovells Creek has been extraordinary. We are seeing these big rain and storm events that are hitting this landscape, and it is having a detrimental effect. And I think that's just been a brilliant model that has worked so well here, and has really been driven by the strategic plans, both of Hovells Creek Landcare, but also of state government.
This project is exactly what we need, because this is looking to tackle the problem at the cause, which is these erosive creek systems where a lot of this sediment and silt is coming into the river. The only way to stop it is to actually stop it where it's coming from, and that relies on farmers. This is a legacy for future generations that we can hopefully see these improvements not only in the paddock but all the way down to the river systems themselves.
I do hope that other people are inspired by the way that it's doable.
The Landcare work you do, if it's successful, will always give back to you. I hope that what we're able to achieve here over time has its own legacy and people respect what we've tried to achieve.
I think that if we're going to be here long term, then we have to do it. We've got 3 young boys, and it's becoming more and more important to make sure that we look after and restore what we've got.
I like the Aboriginal philosophy, look after the land and it'll look after you. And that's the way I try to look at the place and what I do.
We're on Wiradjuri country and it's fantastic. And my line goes back through Ewan, but that doesn't mean I have no less feel for this country. We are here just as custodians and to manage it the best we can.
We know that being here and contributing to the Landcare group, we've seen a transformation across so many neighbours and a connectivity for the biodiversity that we love, and that's really rewarding. So our manpower has contributed to creating what we've got now, which is a place full of birdsong. It's given us a great sense of purpose, and every day we feel a sense of achievement.
So we've been funded by 5 different grants, 2 from the New South Wales Environmental Trust, 1 from Murray-Darling Healthy Rivers, and 2 from Local Land Services New South Wales to cover the cost of fencing and planting. Total grant funding $320,000 ex-GST, and we added to this by charging the landholders 10% of the cost of the works, and they've also done many hours of putting in fencing and planting. So we pay for the plants and the fence materials, but they do the fencing and the planting. So I just want to run quickly through the range of works we've done with before and after photos, and you'll notice there's a figure, the cost of each one. It's simply the cost of works, and it is over the last few years, so you might want to add 10 or 15%. And so just so you can see how manageable the projects are. So this is the simplest sort of gully that we've got, and that's running straight down into the Lachlan, and what we've done there is, with a small excavator, just battered the sides, and what I mean by that is you come from a bit further around the sides and you push the earth in. A lot of gullies have got like a 90-degree edge from the top down, and what you want to do is actually make a much softer profile, and then after that we have filled it with rock. This one is similar. A little bit more complex. This is one of the one from the videos. The culvert in the background has caused the erosion in the foreground. What we've done is excavated it, put a geofabric across it, and then put rocks on it. You wouldn't even know it was there. It's a great one, that one. This is another one of the culverts. This triangular area here has been excavated out. And rocks put there. The thing about this is it hasn't fixed the gully. This is about a 3-kilometre long gully, but what it has done is, in taking the speed out of the water, it means that the vegetation can start to grow in the bottom of the gully, it can start to grow up the sides of the gully, and it can sort of start to self-repair. And certainly you don't get the mess there that you had before. And then they planted out the top of it. At this site, bank erosion on the outside corner of a creek is threatening an old river red gum, so we had the bank partially excavated, soil brought in, and then the bank was armoured with rock, and then seeded to stabilise it further. This site's one of our gullies that formed overnight in a single storm event. That's the 1.7 kilometre long one. The excavator operator battered the sides, filled them in with material from the site, and then cambered them to spread the water flow over a much wider area so that it's not just gouging down the centre. Now, a year later, I didn't just put and it goes to a dam at the bottom of the gully. A year later, it's not looking quite so pretty. This site just seems to be a really troublesome site. They just seem to have much more erosive soils, and what's needed there is for the operator to come back, smooth it over, and then immediately seed it and probably put some plants in the middle of it. But I mean, they have put a lot of plants around the outside, and that will start to help. This is another one that formed overnight. It's really long. And the dozer operator did the same thing, battered the sides, filled them in with material from the site, and cambered it. In this valley, the soil wouldn't hold water at all, so what we've done here is put in 2 what we call leaky dams. So those 2 brown areas there and there, and this is the gully that runs right across the picture. They will hold up the water long enough to take speed out of it. They've put some builder's plastic there to help hold the water. You can see a trickle pipe coming right out the bottom of the gully, just at the bottom of the picture. Sorry, there it is, there. At this site, that's actually a really steep hill. The water coming down that steep hill has gouged out this gully, This was a fairly simple one. The operator simply took out that gully and shaped the whole thing. This, again, needs seeding, and I don't have a picture since it's been seeded. But my next picture is at 90 degrees to this, and it gives you a better idea of how he's shaped it. These operators are incredibly skillful, and I ended up without soil con on the second stage, and they just knew what to do without me having to go through the whole soil con thing. So this has now been shaped, and it's heading out to another gully sort of at the back that goes down there. This is two pictures taken at right angles to each other. There is a slumped area, lost it again, slumped area there, and that's going into this creek which goes straight down into the Lachlan. Here's a close-up of the slump. And so what we did was we got an excavator in, and he's dug out this huge area, formed it into a dam, and this is where the slump was, and that's been redone. It's all been fenced, and 2 years later it's grassing up nicely, and the ducks have brought some vegetation, so it's starting to look really good. 5 minutes? Okay. This is just typical of a whole lot of dams that we've done where we've got these horrible old gullies. We bring in an excavator, do a dam, and then it rains, and it looks a whole lot better. So this is one of the leaky weirs from the video. I'm just going to sit on this just for a second because it's one of my favourite sites. I said earlier this is only half the story, and I think what we've done has been incredibly important and useful, but I do want to acknowledge the other half of the story as well. My dad was a dentist, and I grew up learning about how important preventative dentistry was. Take your F-tabs, clean your teeth, don't eat too much sugar, go for regular checkups, all that sort of stuff. But what we've actually done here, if you'll forgive the metaphor, in this project is not preventative. We've treated the historic rotting teeth and the abscesses by putting in fillings and doing root canal therapy to fix them up. And look, you really do need to do that. But the other half of the story, the preventative half, is about maintaining good pasture year round. And whether you do that by pasture improvement, rotational grazing, no-kill cropping, or managing your stock numbers well, if your pasture can capture most of the rain and allow it to infiltrate into the soil below, it keeps it on the property. It takes the speed out of the water and the force of any runoff before it gets a chance to form new erosion gullies or to make existing ones worse. So my vision for Landcare and farmers is to combine repair work with a solid preventative approach, and then we can all smile with confidence. We've got time for questions. Any questions?
You said there was a number of different grants. Did you have nervous times between those grants, or did you have good continuity of finance?
We had pretty good continuity of finance. We've just gone for a third one. So we had 100,000 from the Environmental Trust, then stage 2, 170. Stage 3, they've just upped their limit to 350, so I've gone for the full 350, and I'll find out in December. But no, we didn't have nervous times because basically we had 2 full years where it just kept raining and none of our machines could get in, so we sat there and we just kept having to write letters to them saying, can we push it on, can we push it on? So no, it's been fairly continuous apart from the rain. You got one at the back and one over there.
Thanks. A comment and a question. I noticed Penn's property,
yep.
The Building Bridges to Bura project, we planted on their property, so you recognise that. So yeah, I guess that adds to the erosion control planting up from those gullies.
The more you can do, the better.
And do you think there's any room for, say, like volunteers doing some of that erosion control work?
I don't know about the erosion control work. The stuff that we're doing is interventions that requires excavators and dozers. However, I do think there's a lot of room for volunteers for planting. A lot of those landholders can't do the mass amount of planting that would be ideal to do, and I think it would be great. And I'm looking into corporates for, in one of my previous jobs, we had a lot of corporates that came in and they needed team bonding exercises. So that's what I'm working on next, to see if we can get the planting done. Yeah.
I'm interested in the LiDAR technology and how useful that was for the project and identifying sites, because most state and territory governments would actually have data sets available. What's missing, obviously, is the 3D mapping, but you know, that's potentially a huge opportunity.
It is, and I think we're still working with that to figure out the extent of what we can get out of it. One of the useful things that they've got is that they do heat maps, and so we've got this coloured heat map that goes across our whole district, and it shows where the worst erosion is. And then once you've got that, you can home into it and look at the 3D thing, and it's a lot easier than getting out to the sites. But I think there's a lot more we can do with it still. Yeah. But I'm going to certainly put it in with my last application to the Environmental Trust, and I'm hoping that that will be a good thing for it.
Could I just make a statement? If anyone was involved with the weaving, can you make sure you donate your little weave to Auntie so it can be put into the big tapestry that's going to go around to the other conferences? Thank you for this disturbance.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Costa. We've got time for one more question.
I just want to say well done. It looks amazing, the work you guys are doing. How much money do you actually need? Like, have you got unlimited projects? That mapping looks amazing and a good tool to be able to pull in funding because you can prove that you need to do stuff. But how much stuff, or how much money do you need to do all this stuff?
Look, I mean, I know you know what I'm going to say. How long's a piece of string? Yeah. But the thing is, I've been told that the Environmental Trust, if a project is going well and if you acquit well, and I have been acquitting well and I've got good reports from them, then they will go to 10 stages, and we're only up to stage 3 with our next one, so I guess we'll just keep working away at it and we'll keep hitting the maximum figure and see what we can do, because... look, we had to... Yeah.
We deal with erosion like this in my local area, and it is very hard to actually get money to do any rock work in our area.
Yeah, we can't get anything to do rock work.
No.
We did have to persuade them that it was a worthwhile thing to do. Erosion control wasn't on their suite of things that they funded, but we put in an argument and they accepted it, and now we're off.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for that.